The tale begins in Japan in 1970 when Tokyo City was destroyed. There was fire everywhere due to the attack of the monsters, and a few magicians were fighting them. One of the men ordered the other to fire at the monsters, but it didn't cause many injuries to the demon. They were stunned and about to cry at the thought that they were going to die, as the monster was about to attack them. But suddenly a martial artist appeared and blocked the attack of the beast. He told the other men that they had done well. While they were crying, he called for the general to retreat and told them to leave everything to him. One of the soldiers instructed the other to exit, and then his companion asked him if they could run away and hide. He thought his companion was a dumbass and asked if he didn't know who that man was. He told him that he was the founder of magic and the strongest mage. He was stunned to see that he was the famous Ichikami Minato. The soldier cleared his tears and said, "That's right, the person standing before us is him. He was standing alone in front of so many monsters. The monster attacked him, but he struck first and thought the beast was very slow. He hit it so hard that the beast divided into many parts, and then he told the other monsters to come at him. One day, many monsters suddenly appeared worldwide, and this event became known as the Calamity. Human weapons were ineffective against demons. However, humanity began opening its eyes to the possibilities of magic. Magic became the only thing capable of defeating monsters, and the battle between monsters and humanity continued for over a decade. Back to the present. The first and most powerful mage, Ichikami Atsumu, stood as the only person capable of saving the world. The demon god appeared, and he recognized it as the top-ranked monster, the boss of the Calamity. He was impressed by its enormous magic power and pressure. The beast stared at him, and he felt as if his whole body was being cut apart. The monster attacked him, and while he was protecting himself by creating a barrier, the beast suddenly started using 10th level magic. He realized it was using its full power from the start and was trying to break his barrier. Eventually, it succeeded. The protagonist was startled to see the demon using 6-element compound magic. He tried blocking the attack, but it became increasingly difficult to hold it back. After a massive blast, he fell to the ground. The boss monster stood in front of him. He wondered if this was truly the strongest monster, the demon god. He realized that at this rate, he would not be able to defeat it. Left with no choice, he decided to use his last option. The power of magic was determined by its rank, and the number of magic circles determined a mage's position. He thought that the highest rank a demon god could achieve was the 14th, while his limit was the 15th. So, he decided to use the 15th rank Innocent Void. He unleashed the attack on the demon god, and the beast fell to the ground. Shortly after, he collapsed too. He was pleased that he was finally able to defeat the boss. He thought that with this, the Calamity could eventually end. Having used all of his magic, he accepted that it wouldn't be the wrong way to die, as a great sage who had lived an extraordinary life. And then he died. His soul departed from his body, drifted into a hospital, and entered the body of a patient. Suddenly, the patient's fingers started moving. He sat up, shocked that he was alive. He wondered how he was still breathing after using all of his magic. He walked to a mirror, looked at his reflection, and was stunned to see a different face. At that moment, a doctor and nurse entered the room and called out to him. Later, while lying on the bed, the doctor removed his bandages. He was shocked to see the wound completely healed, and couldn't believe it. The doctor explained that he had lost consciousness and gone into critical condition due to a traffic accident, but now he was fully healed. The doctor added that it was almost as if he had been healed by holy magic. The protagonist thought it must be because his body had automatically healed itself with holy magic. He then wondered about the traffic accident. He asked the doctor if his magic power was completely depleted. The doctor was confused, not knowing what he meant by magic power. The protagonist explained that he was fighting monsters during the Calamity. The doctor and nurse were stunned and thought his mental status was altered. They asked him his name and the current year. He replied, "I am a Namato, and the year should be 1970, right?" The doctor, surprised, said that it seemed like a memory impairment and told him that his name was Kusanagi Minato and the year was He was shocked to know both his new name and the year. He looked around and noticed the devices in the room. He wondered if the thin screen was a TV since it produced a much clearer image than the ones from his previous life. He looked at the calendar and confirmed it was truly 2022. He was stunned when he saw the tablet, wondering what that small device was, since he had never seen such a thing before. He realized he had awakened in the future. The doctor told him that the Calamity he mentioned had happened 50 years ago and had never appeared again. He was shocked to learn that the calamity had ended and that no monsters had appeared since then. He was told that although there were still monsters, not many of them were left. He thought that if this was true, then the world might have achieved peace, and he thanked God for it. The doctor then told him that Ichikami Minato had died 50 years ago in the Great Calamity, sacrificing himself to save the world and its people, so he could not be that person. The protagonist realized that he had indeed died at that time, and after that he reincarnated into Kusanagi Minato. He wondered why he was reincarnated 50 years later. After some weeks, he went to his new home and entered the room, thinking it was his own. While looking through some books, he realized that Kusanagi Minato's parents had passed away when he was a child. After that, he was kicked out by his foster parents and sent to a boarding school. Since then, he had been getting by with his parents' inheritance. Lying on the bed, he thought to himself that there was no such thing as reincarnation magic. Looking at his ID card, he wondered if his reincarnation was the work of a god or if it had happened merely by chance. He also realized that he was now a student at the Kamui Magic Academy and thought that, in his time, there had been no reason for such an academy to even exist. He found it interesting. Suddenly, the ringing of his phone startled him. Tadanoan was calling. He wondered what he should do with this strange device, but he didn't care and tossed it aside. Soon after, he received a message from Tadanoan, who had heard about his discharge and told him to come to the academy, saying that he didn't get enough money. Later, at Kamui Magic Academy, he looked at the students and his heart raced at the thought of attending school again as an adult. He thought it was all great, until he saw a boy practicing magic by attacking a training dummy. He wondered what kind of magic this was, only to be disappointed and shocked by its weakness. He thought it couldn't be true. Their power was barely a tenth compared to even the newbie magicians of his time. He doubted whether they could even succeed in becoming true magicians. It made him realize that magic had declined greatly during this era. Later in Class 2A, he looked at his classmates while sitting at his desk. He felt excitement as if reliving his youth, and wondered if he might make friends again. Suddenly, some students appeared behind him. One of them was angry because he had ignored his text message. "Although you are Kusanagi, don't you dare ignore me," the boy said. The protagonist asked him who he was, which made the boy furious. He tried to kick him, but the protagonist dodged. The boy, Tadanoan, shouted angrily, "A powerless piece of trash like you dares to forget me." Looking at his phone screen, the protagonist finally remembered his name and realized Tadanoan had been his friend. He reached out his hand and asked him if he knew what being a friend truly meant. Tadanoan grabbed his hand, sneered, and said they should get along, but then he pulled away, grabbed him by the collar, and said he wasn't talking about that kind of friendship. He demanded that Kusanagi hand over money, since he still had plenty left from his parents' inheritance. In that moment, the protagonist realized that Kusanagi had been bullied. Tadanoan grew furious. While punching him, he shouted that he should not get so full of himself. Just then, a girl named Manhwa opened the classroom door and said, "Good morning." The protagonist blushed upon seeing her. Tadanoan warned him not to forget about the money, then left. Later, the teacher began the lecture, teaching them about the Great Calamity. In 1970, the teacher explained, "The great sage sacrificed himself to bring it to an end. That final calamity is what we now call the Great Calamity. Monsters appeared all over the world, and humanity despaired. But the pioneer of magic, known as the Great Sage, thought differently. He did not give up and defeated all the monsters by himself. In the end, he confronted the boss of the calamity, the demon god, and crushed it at the cost of his own life. After that, the calamity never occurred again." While listening with his head down, the protagonist suddenly heard the teacher ask the students, "Who was Ichikami Minato?" That a girl raised her hand. The teacher called on her, and she answered, "He was the only survivor of the first calamity, the first magician, and the reason why Kamui Magic Academy was built. He is the hero of the world, and the idol of every magician." The teacher nodded. "Correct. He was the greatest magician in human history. Remember this, because it will be on the test." The protagonist lifted his head and thought, they should stop. This is too embarrassing. He never expected to be tortured like this. He regretted coming to school and thought that maybe the doctor had been right. The world was at peace now, and that was why magicians had become weak. Looking out the window, he thought, it really is so peaceful. The class ended, and the teacher reminded the students that tomorrow would be their magic power assessment. Tadanoan approached him and sneered. "Did you hear about the assessment? I can't wait to see how pathetic your magic power is." The protagonist wondered if that guy would ever shut up. He saw no point in staying there, so he prepared to leave. But Tadanoan shouted after him, Your parents had no magic power either, right? Then he laughed and added, "Oh, sorry, I forgot you're an orphan." The protagonist called him a jerk, which made Tadanoan furious. "Don't get on your high horse," he shouted, using magic to attack. Everyone in class was shocked. "Are you insane? You'll use magic inside the classroom?" they cried out. Tadanoan ignored them and launched his attack. Mayua rushed toward him, thinking it was dangerous. After the colossal blast, everyone panicked and rushed away. She scolded Tadano, saying he couldn't use magic over a meager squabble as someone might get hurt, but he insisted that the protagonist was the one trying to pick a fight with him, so it wasn't his fault. As the smoke spread through the classroom, the protagonist emerged from it without a single scratch, leaving everyone stunned. Tadano was shocked to see him completely unscathed after taking his magic head-on. He wondered what was happening. The protagonist thought to himself, "If it's just level 1 magic, I can easily defend it with a magical barrier, but I didn't even need to use it actively." He said aloud that he had tolerated Tadano because he was still a child, but now he needed to be punished, while the students shivered in fear. An overwhelming surge of energy burst from his body, illuminating the entire classroom. Nobody could move. They all wondered what was happening, while Mayo stared in awe, unable to understand what kind of magic this was. As the protagonist approached Tadano and raised his hand toward him, the teacher suddenly arrived. "What is all this noise? Did someone use magic in here?" he demanded, looking around. The protagonist took a deep breath, smiled, and calmly said, "Nothing happened in the class, sensei. Maybe someone outside was using magic." But the teacher frowned. "There's no magic club activity scheduled on the school grounds." The protagonist shrugged. It could be that a student from another department was practicing. You know how keen young magicians are to show off their spells. The teacher eyed the smoke, lingering in the room. "And what about this smoke?" He quickly replied. "It came from outside the classroom as well." Since it was Kusanagi's words, the teacher reluctantly accepted it and told the students to return to their seats. He promised to find the culprit himself, then left. In his thoughts, the protagonist apologized to the teacher, knowing he had just created false evidence to cover up the situation. Everyone in the class was still shocked. Tadano cursed under his breath. Meanwhile, the protagonist thought, even though the student's magic level is far too low, I wonder if they could ever face real monsters. Even if there are no calamities, monsters still roam this world. These people, they're not strong enough. I should check for myself. Later, in old Shibuya, most of the buildings had been destroyed during the catastrophe years ago. While surveying the area, he realized the place had changed greatly. He scanned the site but couldn't sense any monsters nearby. Everything was ruined. He thought the police might have already dealt with them. After traveling some distance, however, he suddenly sensed a monster's aura and a lone human presence. He hurried toward the source. There, he saw a terrified girl sitting on the ground, begging the monster to stay away. The beast opened its mouth to devour her, but the protagonist appeared just in time. The monster roared, but he easily struck it down. The girl, still shaking, glared at him in shock. He noticed her badge and realized she was a police magician. He told her to be careful next time. She thanked him as he left, but wondered to herself who he really was. He hadn't even chanted a single spell. After walking some distance, he uncovered his face and thought it was best to hide his identity for now, since he had just reincarnated and didn't want to stand out. He reflected that even the police's magic had grown weak. That girl had almost been killed by a low-level monster. He realized not only the students but even the authorities of this time could not truly defeat monsters. It seems, even in this era, they still need my power, he thought. Determined, he decided to annihilate all the surrounding monsters for now. The next day at the Magic Academy, the teacher reminded the students, "As you've been informed, today we will measure your magic power. Be sure to check both your magic amount and your attribute. They are the most important values if you hope to become professional magicians." The protagonist wondered if he could measure his power without relying on such a machine. He thought to himself, even the teacher doesn't understand something so basic. Magic perception is the foundation of all magic. While he was lost in thought, Mayua hesitated for a moment, then decided it was the right time to speak to him. Their classmates were shocked to see her initiating a conversation. "I suppose it's time we properly introduced ourselves," she said, with a confident smile. "I am Mayua, the second daughter of the noble house of Mayua." When he asked her what a magic noble was, she was stunned. She explained that her family was one of the 4 great noble houses that led the community of magicians. The protagonist frowned. "In my time, nothing like that existed. I've never even heard of such families." After observing her, he realized that despite her noble background, her magic power wasn't particularly impressive. So even so-called prominent magician families have declined this much, he thought. Mayo, on the other hand, was offended. What's wrong with him? He should be more grateful that I so generously started a conversation with him. She fumed inwardly. Meanwhile, Tadano stared at them suspiciously, wondering what kind of deal was going on between them. The protagonist finally asked her directly, "So what business do the mage nobility have with me?" Mayowa was enraged. The more he talks, the more he pisses me off. She forced herself to take a deep breath and calm down. Mizuha tried to calm herself down, reminding herself that she was a noble woman and should think about her dignity. What's wrong with him? She wondered. Then she remembered that when he was hit by magic yesterday, he came out unscathed. There must be a reason. She was about to ask him about the incident, but the teacher interrupted, telling everyone to get ready. The protagonist left happily, as it was finally time for the assessment. She called out to him, but he ignored her. Maya thought, fine, I'll just see his true power during the measurement. The first to be tested was Tadano-kan. He poured his energy into the device, and his magic power was revealed to be 1000. With the fire attribute, he was pleased with himself since it was better than his previous results. The protagonist thought, so 1000 is considered decent. That means the measuring standard hasn't changed in the past 50 years. Next was Mizuha Yuika's turn. She filled the device with her energy, and the reading displayed 2000 with the water attribute. Everyone was thrilled. The teacher praised her and Tadano, saying their magic power was at the top of this year's class, and that they would make fantastic magicians. The students cheered them on, already expecting great things from Tadano, the fire prodigy, and Mawa-sama, the water noble. But Kusanagi Minato thought, she might be joking, right? At the top with just 2000, that's barely above an amateur. Meanwhile, Maiwa looked at him proudly, thinking this was the proof of her noble family's strength. He found her smug expression unbearable. Now it was his turn. The students whispered among themselves, recalling that he had ranked at the very bottom the previous year. Though he was good at studies, his talent in magic had always been considered poor. Tadano smirked, hoping he would embarrass himself in front of Yua. She, on the other hand, smiled confidently, certain that his power would never surpass hers. Standing before the device, the protagonist wondered what he should do. Back in my day, I stood out too much. It was such a pain. Should I hold back a little? But then, placing his hand on the device, he decided to give it his all. Let's see if this machine can even measure the power of the great sage. The moment his energy surged into the device, it overflowed violently, spreading throughout the building. Everyone froze, unable to comprehend what was happening. The meter spun out of control. Unable to stop, finally the entire machine exploded, showering the room with fragments. Everyone was stunned. The overwhelming pressure of his magic had been unbearable for them to even sense. The protagonist thought, just as I expected. The machine broke from only a little bit of seriousness. None of them here can even grasp the scope of my magic power. Can they really call themselves magicians? The teacher rushed over. Is everyone all right? The students assured him they were fine. He turned to the protagonist. What about you, Kusanagi? You were right in the middle of that explosion. I'm fine, he replied calmly. The teacher sighed, rubbing his chin. This is the first time I've ever seen a measuring device destroyed. Perhaps it was defective, but this is troublesome. Without the result, we don't know your magic power or attribute. The protagonist asked if that was a problem. The teacher explained, normally we assign students to combat groups based on their assessment results. But since the mission broke, He glanced at Tadano. Would you be willing to take him into your group? Tadano grinned wickedly and winked at his friend. Of course, sensei. Leave it to me. The teacher nodded in relief. Good. With you in charge, I can rest easy. He leaned closer to Kusanagi and whispered, I'll be looking forward to seeing your performance. Later, they traveled to Old Shibuya, where the scars of the Great Catastrophe were still visible. Many buildings lay in ruins, and monsters continued to inhabit the area. The teacher explained. This part of the city was abandoned. At regular intervals, magicians and police conduct subjugation missions here. Today, it's your turn to contribute. But don't worry, half the demons have already been removed. The protagonist hadn't expected a practical combat class. Still, even with a few monsters left, the students should be able to handle them if they work in groups, he thought. Looking around, he realized he had been there. Just last night, something felt off. I already eliminated the monsters here. So why are there still traces of them? Meanwhile, some students were chatting casually. Let's compete, one said. I won't lose today, another replied eagerly. The protagonist shook his head. Carefree, even in a practical exam. The teacher announced, the practical class begins now. Remember, teamwork is the key. As the others moved out, the protagonist lingered. Tadano sneered at him. Stay out of our way, I'm being kind to you here, so don't get carried away. I won't go easy on you this time. The protagonist calmly brushed the dust from his shirt. If you don't like me, then just ignore me. That only enraged Tadano further. Don't talk back to me, he roared. The protagonist sighed, thinking, this guy really is the bottom of the barrel. Tadano sneered, calling him barrel scum and saying he was nothing but trash. Still, he couldn't understand why Manhwa seemed so interested in him. After thinking for a moment, Tadano came to a conclusion and asked bluntly, do you like her? The protagonist stayed calm, but Tadano grew furious. Before the argument could escalate further, a sudden noise echoed behind them. Tadano, ignoring it, cast a spell and shouted that he would kill him today. Don't do it, the protagonist warned. But Tadano snapped. There's no point apologizing now. Look behind you, the protagonist said firmly. I won't fall for such childish tricks, Tadano scoffed. Yet the sound grew louder. When Tadano finally turned his head, he froze in terror. Behind him stood a massive monster. The students were horrified. None of them expected a demon soldier to appear here. Why is there a demon soldier in Shibuya? One of them shouted. Tadano's friend paled. Only you can fight it. Please, defeat it. Overconfident, Tadano smirked. This will be light work. He cast his fire spell and launched it at the beast. The flames roared against its body, and Tadano declared the job finished. Nice shot, his friend applauded, relieved. But their smiles faded instantly. The monster stepped forward unharmed, not a single scratch on its body. Tadano's confidence shattered. Impossible, he thought. My magic had no effect at all. The protagonist sighed. Of course. A demon soldier can't be taken down with something as weak as level 1 magic. The monster advanced, and the students trembled in fear. Tadano nearly wept, convinced his death was near. As the beast reached out its massive hand to crush him, it suddenly hesitated. Its eyes locked on the protagonist standing calmly behind them. The demon stepped back instinctively, remembering its fallen brethren. The protagonist walked forward. A demon soldier can always tell who is stronger, he said quietly. The students panicked, cried out, you can't defeat it with level 1 magic. We'll all die here. The monster raised its arm and unleashed Rock Break, a devastating level 2 spell. The ground shook as boulders tore free, hurling toward them. But the protagonist only smirked. He lifted his hand and released a simple fire arrow. A level 1 spell. The moment it struck, there was an earth-shattering explosion. Dust and smoke filled the air. The students coughed and blinked in disbelief. What just happened? Tadano's face went pale. Did Kusanagi kill that demon soldier? No. Impossible. There's no way he could do that. He desperately tried to convince himself otherwise. If it had been my fire magic, I could accept it. But him? Never. Meanwhile, the protagonist silently wondered. Why are demon soldiers appearing here in Shibuya? I eliminated all the monsters last night. Something about this is wrong. Could this be a sign of another disaster? His heart grew heavy as he remembered the past when demons had attacked humans and countless lives were lost. Even if Calamity comes again, he swore to himself, I will save everyone this time. The demon soldier collapsed in defeat, confirming the truth. Tadano slammed his fist against the wall in frustration while Manhwa watched everything unfold from behind cover. She cast a simple aqua saucer, her level 1 spell, at the remains of a lesser beast. Her classmates applauded her loudly, praising her brilliance. She only sighed. Ordinary people are such a drag. Something so small surprises them. But I am a genius of the Minato family. It can't be helped. When she turned, she saw the protagonist standing near Tadano. He looked completely different from the timid, talentless boy she once knew. She remembered he hadn't even chanted a spell. Did he just use magic without chanting? She wondered, stunned. And with level 1 at that, impossible. She recalled the fixed hierarchy of demon ranks. The demon king at rank 2, the demon god at rank 1. Every magician knew it was impossible to defeat a demon soldier with less than level 3 magic. Yet he had done it effortlessly. When he walked past her hiding place, she instinctively shrank back. Why am I hiding from him? She asked herself. You know, he said suddenly, his voice calm, peeking around like that is quite the hurry. She gasped. How did you know I was here? He sighed. If you're a mage, it'd be insane not to notice. With that, he turned and left. Wait, she called after him. What do you mean by that? But he was already gone. From the rooftop above, he watched her silently before scanning the area. No more demon soldiers, but plenty of magical beasts remain. If Tado struggled so much, the others will never hold their own against these creatures. Determined, he raised his hand. Rage and power swirled around him. At Shibuya Station, he unleashed Barret, a level 2 spell, firing a storm of magical bullets. They streaked across the night sky, so bright the students below mistook them for shooting stars. Manhwa's eyes widened. That was magic? But it feels like he has multiple abilities at once. All around them, the monsters were annihilated. The beast attacked her relentlessly, but before it could land a fatal blow, it was suddenly struck by the protagonist's magic and cut into countless pieces. Her classmate rushed to her side and asked if she was all right, while she stood there, dazed and confused. From the rooftop, the protagonist watched everything unfold. He felt a strange satisfaction from killing the beasts, but soon realized he had overdone it. Most of them were already dead, which meant the class would struggle to continue their exercise. He sighed, thinking he needed to hold himself back next time. He leapt down from the building, deciding there was no need to keep hiding his power. Yet, standing out too much was also a hassle for him. Making his way toward the teacher and other students who had gathered, he blended into the group. The teacher examined the aftermath with a serious face. Strange, how could so many magical beasts still remain? The herd should have been mostly hunted down. He observed the corpses carefully. No, these were all taken out in one strike, by someone very skilled. He suspected it might be null attribute magic, capable of firing countless bullets at once, but he had never seen such a technique before. If not for this magician, things would have gotten troublesome, he admitted to himself. Firing 2 of those bullets isn't difficult, but launching more than 6 at once, that's nearly impossible. Could this really have been done by students? The students, meanwhile, were furious. Teacher, why were there so many magic beasts here? We nearly died. The teacher bowed apologetically. I was told the police had already cleared most of the pack, but I should have confirmed it from the school side as well. I put you all in danger. I am truly sorry. One girl stepped forward. But someone saved us. Didn't they? I want to thank them for saving my life. The teacher frowned. It wasn't the police, nor any official mage, which means an unlicensed magician, perhaps. But whoever it was, I am grateful to them. Later, the students whispered among themselves about the mysterious magical bullets, trying to guess who could have used them. The protagonist, standing silently in the crowd, felt relieved. Everyone was safe. Tadano and his friends were safe too, though Tadano glared at him furiously from across the group. Mawa, however, looked at him thoughtfully. He defeated a demon soldier with level 1 magic. Could that infinite magic have been his work too? She shook her head. No, impossible. A student can only have one attribute. I've never seen anyone capable of wielding both fire and null magic. Even him, it can't be. Still, she couldn't deny the truth. He had slain the demon soldier. Her thoughts wavered. Just, what is he? Meanwhile, Tadano's friend muttered suspiciously. What if all those glowing bullets were his doing too? Could it be? Don't be ridiculous, Tadano snapped. There's no way a loser like him could do that. Something's fishy about him. His friend hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, he used to be a coward. Maybe he's cheating somehow. Tadano clenched his fists. Rage burned inside him. Cheating. Or trickery. Either way, I'll expose him. After school, on his way home, the protagonist was ambushed. Tadano and his lackeys stood waiting for him. You again? The protagonist sighed. You're really persistent. Wouldn't studying magic be a better use of your time? You talk too much. Tadano spat. Cheater, don't play dumb with us. There's no way you can use magic like that. Stop lying. The protagonist blinked. Cheater? When did I ever— Shut up. Tadano roared. Stop playing dumb. There's no way you pulled that off without some dirty trick. The protagonist only looked at him quietly, so unreasonable. They really think I cheated? Tadano sneered. Follow me. I'll give you credit for not running away. But today, I'll reveal your true face. There's no need for me to run, the protagonist replied calmly. Stop spouting nonsense. Tadano charged at him and swung his fist. Let's see if you can fight without your magic. He and his friends attacked, but their punches and kicks bounced off harmlessly. Not a single scratch appeared on the protagonist. What's going on? Tadano yelled. Why isn't he even hurt? The protagonist thought to himself, my magic power defends me automatically. No matter how much they hit me, it won't work. Maybe I should pretend to get hurt so they'll stop. As the bullies kept striking him, a clear voice suddenly cut through the air. What do you think you're doing? They froze. Mizuha stood behind them, her eyes sharp with fury. We were just playing around, Tadano stammered. Don't lie to me, she snapped. I know you've been bullying Kusanagi, students of our Magic Academy acting like common thugs. Aren't you ashamed of yourselves? Tadano's face twisted. Damn him. Because of him, even Mizuha hates me now. She stepped forward and grabbed the protagonist's hand. Come on. Let's get out of here. The protagonist blinked in shock, staring at her hand, holding his. Tadano's rage boiled over. Bastard, he screamed. His fury erupted as he cursed and launched a massive fire spell. Manhwa, the protagonist shouted. But Tadano couldn't hear her. Consumed with hatred, he hurled his magic to kill him. His companions joined in, unleashing spells together. The flames roared toward them, engulfing the street in a storm of fire. Mizuha raised her arms to shield herself, panicking. Tadano sneered. Even cheating won't save you this time. His friend thought it looked terrible and wondered if they were dead, but he felt they were idiots for being afraid. He told them they had accidentally used magic outside of school, which got out of control, and Kusanagi just got caught in the middle. That was all that happened there, but he thought they did go too far. The protagonist appeared from the dust and said that he had tolerated them, thinking they were just brats, but their stupidity could only be cured by death, so it was time to discipline them. They were shocked to see him alive, even after getting hit by that much magic. Kusanagi said that he could not tolerate them any longer, as they had dragged Yua into this, and asked them how rotten they were. Tadano-kan said it was all his fault, as they dared to make him a fool, and declared they would keep attacking until he died. The protagonist made a small magical circle. They laughed, wondering what kind of crappy magic circle it was, and shot at him, saying that this time he would surely die. But the protagonist used magic drain on them, and they were bound by it. He told them to let it sink in. After a few seconds, no strength was left in their bodies, and they fell to the ground unconscious. He sat next to them and thought that he had absorbed only a little bit of magic, yet they were already out. He wondered if it would make them reflect a bit. She asked him what magic he had used, what had happened there, and why Tadano and his friends were unconscious. While he was leaving, she told him to wait a minute and bombarded him with non-stop questions about what kind of magic he used and what had happened there. She asked him why, if he wasn't supposed to be able to use magic properly, he could do such things, and she wondered who exactly he was. He let out a cold sigh and thought she was so annoying. He told her that, instead of asking him questions, she should be saying something else to him. She turned her face around, then said she would give her thanks for helping her. She looked back at him, and after showing her gratitude, he had vanished again. She got enraged and shouted, demanding to know where he had gone this time. Later that night, he went to Old Shibuya and scouted the area to check for monsters, as he had a terrible feeling. Although he had killed all the monsters in the afternoon, the area was already full of them again. He wondered if that was some kind of omen and thought that, if it was only this city, he could handle it. But he could also sense them in other places. He felt it must be too much for the police, and the magicians weren't good enough either. He knew he couldn't kill all the monsters in Japan alone. He wondered what he should do about this, and began devising a plan. He jumped from a building, deciding wipe out the monsters around first. But he knew he needed to take care of it carefully so he wouldn't stand out. He used magic bullets on the monsters below, and killed them. Meanwhile, a drunk man was walking alone in the street, singing, when a magical beast appeared behind him and opened its mouth to eat him. But the protagonist attacked it in the blink of an eye and dragged it behind a wall. The drunk man looked back, but no one was there. He thought it was just his imagination. While the protagonist was beating the monster, he looked back, wondering if he had been caught. A lady nearby recorded the incident of him attacking the monster and uploaded it, feeling satisfied that she had captured viral-worthy material. Later, at the principal's office, their teacher told them that they had come to know that some students from the school were seen using magic outside the school grounds. He said that if it were true, they would have no choice but to expel those students. so he wanted them to explain what exactly had happened. Tadano said that they didn't use magic. Instead, he pointed at the protagonist and claimed that Kus and Ai came to them looking for a fight. The protagonist was impressed at how casually he could lie. He thought he couldn't keep his mouth shut, as it would be a drag, so he decided to explain himself. But before he could, Yua spoke up and said that it was all lies. They were stunned and looked at her while she, enraged, told the teacher that Kusagi was being bullied by Tadano and his friends, who were the first to use magic. The teacher asked her if the protagonist also used magic. She said yes, but insisted it was all in self-defense, since he hadn't done anything wrong. The protagonist was stunned. Tadano argued that they also hadn't done anything wrong, but Yua told him to shut up. She asked what kind of person bullies someone and then blames them when faced with the consequences. She asked if he wasn't ashamed of himself. But Tado said it was all the protagonist's fault and called him trash, unworthy of the school. He claimed that he had only been cleaning up trash. Yua shot back, telling him that he was the one unworthy of the school. Tado told her that he was at the top of the class and the only one worthy of standing beside her, not Kusagi. She wondered what he was talking about, and he told her to open her eyes and not waste them on that unworthy guy. Then he told her to look at him and become his woman. She said there was no chance for him. He was shocked. She rejected him, saying he was nothing but a violent bully. The confession made zero sense, and her words struck him like an arrow. The protagonist looked at Tadano, who was lying on the ground, and thought that although he knew Tadano deserved this, it was still brutal. The principal said that, after hearing from all sides, it looked like Tadano and his friends were at fault, and Kusagi had only used magic for self-defense. He said that they did not need people who used magic for selfish desires, so he expelled them all. But Tadano's friend requested the principal not to expel them, insisting they had only done this because Ju-chan told them to. The teacher told the protagonist and Yua to return to their classes. They asked for permission to leave and exited the dean's office. On their way back, she was furious. She said he was the worst, and that she hadn't been that pissed off in a while. He asked her what would happen to Tadano and his friends, now that they were expelled. She told him they wouldn't be able to become mages anymore, which was obvious. Then, she scolded him, telling him that he needed to speak up for himself. He thought he was going to reply, but she spoke up again. He looked at her and she wondered what was wrong. He told her that, now that he thought about it, she had saved him quite a few times. Once in class when they got into a fight, and again in the dean's office. He called her a crazy good girl. She blushed, told him to shut up, and rushed into the classroom first. He smiled, touched his body and thought about how Kusanagi Minato had died, while he had been reincarnated. He wondered if he had been bullied to death, or if it was just a normal car accident. He didn't know, but he was sure about one thing: they were guilty of something, and he hoped this would pay off later. Meanwhile, Haruka and Katsuragi Ryuji, who were in the third-year class, visited the dean's office. They asked him if students had really been using magic outside the school. Some other students also caught wind of the situation. The dean admitted it was true, but reassured them that no harm had been done to the general public. Then one of the students asked why he had called her. The dean explained that the student who had gotten caught up in this was Mizuha. She understood the situation and thanked him for reporting it to her. The dean asked her to give his regards to her father. She told him to rest assured, as her father was willing to invest in the school. A boy asked her if what the dean told them was true, that Kusagi might be absurdly strong. She replied that fighting multiple times would be nearly impossible and that he wouldn't be able to win unless there was a huge power discrepancy. The boy asked if she thought Kusagi might actually be stronger than them. She said no, but admitted she was interested. When he asked what they would do, she said they would confirm the student's competence first, and then decide whether they should expel her sister. That sounded interesting to him. Meanwhile, the protagonist sat in class, feeling bored. Because everything was so peaceful, he had lost all motivation. Some students were looking at a video on their phones and said it was the Black Mage. He was startled to hear that name, and wondered if it was the same as a magic noble, but decided to ignore it since it didn't concern him. The teacher entered the class, called his name, and told him that the students who hadn't been measured last time would now undergo the magic power assessment. She looked at him, wondering if he was healed, and thought that this time she would finally find out what he was capable of. But then, she was stunned to see her sister there, and wondered what she was doing. When it was the protagonist's turn, the teacher told him to begin the magic power assessment. He thought he should be careful this time, since he had destroyed the device during his last examination. He placed his hand on the device and tried to control his power output. The numbers on the device moved slowly. He got tired, and the teacher asked him if he was all right. He realized that this time they had managed to get his result. His power level was 100 and he had no attributes. She was shocked to learn that he had no attributes while her sister looked at the score. The students whispered, saying his score was the lowest in their batch. They thought having no attributes was quite rare, but also believed it meant he was useless. At the same time, Katsuragi Ryuji realized there was no truth behind the fight and the rumors of him defeating the delinquents by himself. She told him to let it go, as they had finished their business there. The students mocked the protagonist, saying he had gotten tired just from the reassessment. He told his friend that he would end up that way if his magic power was that low. The teacher told him not to overthink it, since the amount of magic power one has doesn't mean everything. Mount Haruka, however, thought something was wrong. The protagonist had defeated the demon soldier, so he should have been able to use dual attributes like fire and none. She had never heard of someone adjusting the amount of their magic power and wondered what exactly he had done. The protagonist took a peaceful breath, satisfied that he had managed to get the perfect result after some precise magic manipulation even though it had taken a toll on him. Luckily, he regained his composure. While returning, he asked Yoa if she had also been in the assessment room. She said she was just a little curious about his magic power and attributes. Mao Haruka told her to stop, and the protagonist asked who they were. She replied that she was the eldest daughter of the Mao family. The guy next to her was her fellow, and both of them were third-year students. He asked her if she needed anything, but she said she no longer had any business with him. He then went near her sister and said that it seemed like they weren't even a match against the delinquents. He had heard that she was saved by Kusanagi, whose magic power amount was merely 100, and asked her if it was true. She confirmed that it was. She told Yua to quit the academy, but Yua asked her why she should stop. Then her sister asked her if she had ever won against her even once, whether it was in academics, sports, or magic craft. Yua had never beaten her at anything, so her sister believed she was not suited to be a mage. She said that only she herself needed to become a mage, and that was more than enough. Yua wanted to give her opinion, but her sister told her that all she needed to do was listen. She demanded again that Yua quit the academy and enroll at a regular school. As Yua began to cry, her sister asked if she had heard her. Yua was about to say yes when the protagonist suddenly interrupted, telling her that she was being quite arrogant. She asked him what he had said, and he explained that she kept talking non-stop without bothering to hear what the other party wanted to say. He asked her if that wasn't arrogance, then what he should call it. Mana Ruka told him that this was a conversation between family members, so an outsider should stay out of it, but the protagonist countered, asking if she really called that a conversation, because to him it just sounded like she was ordering her sister around. This made her angry, and she asked him what he meant. He said that to coerce someone out of their way of living was not something even a family member had the right to do. The same went for forcing someone to give up their dreams. She argued back, saying that her younger sister simply didn't have what it took to be a mage, since she had never won against her even once. Yua cried, thinking that her sister was right. She had no talent. She had been telling herself all along that she was a genius and had the aptitude to be a mage, but the reality was that she had never defeated her sister. Kusanagi Minato then said that Yua could win against her sister. Yua looked up at his face in shock. Her older sister was also surprised and asked him if he had really said that. He admitted that it was impossible for now. Of course, but in 2 weeks, Yua would be able to win against her. Her sister then suggested they have a 2-on-2 magic duel. He repeated, 2-on-2 matches, and she asked if he was planning to run away after spouting such nonsense. But he calmly told her he wasn't talking nonsense. He would also participate in the duel. He turned to Yua and asked for her opinion. Though confused, she gave it some thought and finally agreed to participate. He then declared that everything was decided, and told Aruka that if they won, she would no longer be allowed to interfere in this matter. Aruka smirked and said that if she and her partner won, then Yua must quit the academy. As she left, she warned him that she wouldn't hold back, so they had better be prepared to face reality. Later on the rooftop, Yua confessed to him that she wanted his help. She wanted him to teach her more about magic. The protagonist was a little worried, wondering why she had suddenly called him up there. He told her that he was just a lowly mage with only 100 magic power, and asked if she was sure she wanted to be taught by someone like him. But Yua told him she knew he was hiding his real power. He was much stronger than her, and surely knew how to make her stronger as well. That was why he had been confident enough to say she could win against her sister. He thought to himself that people like Aruka were the type who desperately wanted to control everything. That was why he had provoked her into suggesting a fight. Then Yua bowed in front of him and begged him to teach her magic. He couldn't decline when she was begging him like that, and besides, he also needed to prepare for what was going to happen. Helping raise a mage might not be so bad. He agreed, but told her that she must follow everything he said and could not back out midway. She was overjoyed and accepted. Kusanagi Minato told her they would begin right away, starting from today. But then he wondered where they should practice. Yua asked him if he would come to her place. Later, at her house, he looked around and commented on how big it was. She told him that her father was a noble mage, so it was natural. She thought to herself that this was the first time she had invited a boy to her house, and wondered if he found it strange. But she assured herself she had no weird intentions. While she was still thinking, the protagonist told her to start the practice. Since she didn't hear him, he called her by name. She was stunned and asked why he had called her by her given name. He explained that since her sister also went by Mizuha, people wouldn't know who he was addressing if he didn't. He asked her if she disliked it and whether she wanted him to call her by something else. But she shook her head and said no, he could call her Yua. Then they began the practice, and she asked him to take care of her. He said he would, but first he wanted her to answer a few questions. He asked her what exactly she knew about magic power. She thought the question was easy, and she said that it was the energy inside their body needed to perform magic. Then he asked her about incantations, and she replied that they were like programs, a way to turn magic power into magic craft, automatically. So, he asked her if it was possible to increase her magic power deliberately. She answered that it was impossible, as the limit of one's magic power amount was determined before birth, and would stop increasing once they reached a certain age. She laughed and felt proud, sure that she had answered all of his questions perfectly. But then he told her that all her answers were incorrect. She cried upon hearing that and asked him what he meant. He wondered who would have guessed that the current mages were so foolish, and he began to question what had happened in the last 50 years. He explained that magic power wasn't just within their bodies, that incantations were simply tools to back up magic craft, and that it was possible to increase magic power intentionally. She said he was lying, because if it were true, it would have overturned the teachings of the Magic Craft Academy. But he said it didn't matter, whether she believed him or not. She told her that he would teach her about the 3 things he had just mentioned. He instructed her to sit, as he would channel magic power into her, and told her to inform him when she felt it. She asked if he could really make her feel magic power. He replied that she couldn't grow stronger if she couldn't sense it, and instructed her to close her eyes because he was going to touch her now. He poured his energy into her body but soon realized that it wasn't sufficient, so he decided to pour in more. Still, she could not feel such strong energy. After he continued channeling for some time, she finally said that she was feeling something. Her back was getting hot. He told her that what she felt was magic power perception. She then realized what he meant by feeling magic power. He told her to remember that sensation, because once she could sense it, she would be able to detect and locate magic power in nature. He told her to make it her goal from now on. Ya smirked and said that she was the second daughter of the Mage family, so she would master it in no time, but in his mind he thought that she had only managed to sense it after he poured that much magic power into her. It seemed she didn't have the talent to be a mage. 1 week later she cried, because she still could not do it. He reflected that, although she had been practicing diligently for a week, her progress was extremely slow. It was almost time, so he told her he would pour magic power into her body again. He placed his hand on her back, and channeled energy into her once more. After some time, he told her to open her eyes. She was stunned. She could see it. She was delighted to finally see magic power and wondered if that was what it truly looked like. She was mesmerized, thinking about how beautiful it was, and wondered if she could also see Kusanagi's power, but when she looked at him she could barely see his energy, which confused her. The protagonist told her that she had done her best. She proudly replied that it was natural, since she was herself. Then he told her that now that she had managed to perceive magic power, it was time to learn how to adjust the amount of magical power she used. He explained that if she could use 50% of her magic power, she could attack twice. But if she managed to adjust it to use only 20% in one attack, she could attack 5 times. He told her to always use magic craft with the appropriate amount of magic, discard unnecessary excess, focus on efficiency, and push her magic power to its limits. After her magic power depleted, the amount would increase after recovery, allowing her to maximize its use again. Once she could fully sense magic power, she would be able to expand her strength even further. He asked her if this was different from what the Magic Craft Academy taught. She admitted that it was, but said that she believed him and would not doubt him anymore. He told her that they should move on to the next stage of training and asked her to step back a little because it was time for practice battle, but she said it was fine. She also wanted to see his true power. She then used the first level of aqua sorcery, but he easily blocked it with a barrier. She was shocked that all of her magic craft had been nullified. He explained that it was the first level, a basic non-attribute magic barrier. He asked her that if she couldn't even destroy this, how did she plan on beating Ruka? She attacked him with ice bullets, but he instructed her to move, reminding her that staying still against a mage meant defeat. She poured all her power into her attacks until she was drained and fell to the ground, saying she couldn't do it. He told her that she was being inefficient, using too much magic power. He explained that if she could learn to adjust her magic power, she would no longer need any incantations, and could use magic craft as long as she had energy. Then he told her to watch. He used Fire Blast, releasing flames in her direction. At first it produced only slight power, imitating her style. Then he showed her his own way of performing the magic attack. It was much stronger and far more controlled than hers. She observed carefully and noticed that in her own attacks, the magic craft dispersed and scattered. He told her that she was correct, and explained that it was possible to perform magic craft without incantations, as long as she could adjust her magic power. She asked him if he meant that she no longer needed to chant, and he said yes. He instructed her to first learn how to shorten her incantations. Once she could adjust her magic power, she wouldn't need any incantation at all. He explained that it would be a great advantage in battle if she could shorten her chants, since she would no longer waste magic power on them. She said, "In other words, you're saying it would strengthen my magic craft." He told her she was right, and ordered her to begin again. She hesitated, wondering if it wasn't too soon, but he told her that if she didn't do it now, it would be meaningless. He warned her to practice as if her life depended on it. She began crying under the pressure and later collapsed on the ground. He told her that she was still alive, and that they would be doing this every day from now on, but he soon realized she wasn't even listening anymore. That night, he went to Harajuku to survey the area for demons, and noticed that monsters were still present. Their numbers hadn't decreased, despite constant exterminations. He wondered what exactly was happening on Earth. Suddenly, he sensed one of the monsters and turned around. The creature was attacking a human, so he rushed forward, defeated the monster, and asked the girl if she was all right. Terrified though she was, she didn't want to lose the chance to capture proof of the black mage. She quickly took his picture. Shocked, he immediately left. He was surprised that she had taken his photo without consent and simply thanked him for saving her. He wondered what was wrong with people these days. To avoid such incidents in the future, he decided to wear a mask. The next morning, he was back at Yua's house. She was exhausted after only a few attempts at practice. He thought about how few days were left before the duel. Though she was progressively improving, she was still lacking in every field compared to her sister. There was no way she would win if things continued like this. He told her it was fine if she wanted to give up. Yua replied that she had always been compared to her sister and had never been able to beat her at anything. She had been forced to give up on many things in life, but magic craft was the one thing she refused to give up on. He told her that she wouldn't win this way. She asked him to be stricter with her. He warned her that he wouldn't hold back now, and she smiled, saying that was exactly what she wanted. They resumed their training. By evening, she was completely drained, so he carried her on his back. The next day, she attacked him, and he told her that she had passed because she managed to break through his barrier. She fell to the ground in joy, finally succeeding at last. He praised her for working so hard to achieve this. On the day of the magic duel, they arrived at the Magic Academy. He asked if she was ready, and she confidently answered yes. Suddenly, they were surrounded by reporters. The press asked Manhwa Yua to comment on the duel and whether she had a conflict with her older sister. Surprised, she asked what they were doing there. The reporters explained that the duel between the Mao sisters was big news and it was natural for the press to cover it. The protagonist remarked that student battles highlighted just how important the lineage of a noble mage family was. Later, they entered the stadium, where everyone had gathered to witness the duel. Looking around at the massive crowd, he asked her if she didn't think it was too much. She replied that magic duels were rare and that it felt more like a grand event. The commentator called the two participants to the stage. Yua nervously said yes. Feeling unwell, he encouraged her to do her best. His words gave her strength, and she thought he was a mysterious person because his encouragement always resounded in her heart. Soon, Yua and Ruka were standing face to face. He asked Yua if she wasn't going to run away, and she replied, Of course not. Why would I run away? Ruka looked down on her, calling her uncouth, and asked if she really thought she could win against someone like her. But Yua stood confident, declaring she would defeat her. Ruka studied her closely and admitted that she seemed to have made progress in the past 2 weeks. Yua, however, thought to herself that the gap in their magic power was enormous. Even so, she resolved not to lose. The duel commenced and the commentator signaled the beginning of the fight. Yua felt as though she had shortened her chant, but she still remained stationary while her sister moved continuously. The protagonist noted that constant movement was the basis of mage battles, so he assumed Ruka also understood the reason behind conflicts between two mages. In contrast, Yua was so nervous that she forgot to move. This cost her the advantage of speed. Ruka attacked with first-level aqua sorcery, but Yua managed to counter it. Surprised, Ruka remarked that she was getting stronger. Stunned, Ruka admitted that Yua had become stronger in just 2 weeks. Yua was glad to hear her sister's praise, but Ruka immediately dismissed it, asking what she was so happy about. She clarified that it was only a comparison and not meant as honor. Then Ruka declared that she would increase her magic level. She unleashed second-level water blitz. The force was overwhelming and Yua was unable to withstand it. She was thrown back, collapsing against the pavilion. Yura was severely injured. Kusanagi Minato looked at her and thought that her only chance of winning lay in enchanting speed, but he knew her opponent was far more powerful. Manhwa Ruka came forward and told him that he was cruel, asking whether he wouldn't help his disciple as he had protected her, but he replied that there was no need for that. When she pressed him for an explanation, she was shocked to see her younger sister standing again. Ruka couldn't believe Yua had endured her level 2 magic attack and was still on her feet. But Yua declared that she would not lose, because magical craft was the only thing she had. Even if she lost everything else, this was the one thing she would never give up on. She poured all her magic power into her attack, but she was unable to land a single hit. Even as exhaustion overtook her, Yua cried out that she would surely defeat her sister, but her body gave way and she collapsed, her energy completely drained. The referee announced that contestant Yua had depleted all her magic power and declared the victory for contestant Ruka. Yua was devastated by her loss. The protagonist went to her side and tried to calm her down. He reflected that the duel had been a test of magic usage and adjustment, but in the end she had lost due to her lesser amount of magic power. Ruka sneered, asking him if he now understood that her younger sister had no talent, and added that he must have thought the same himself.
He admitted that it was true.
Yua was clumsy, slow to progress, inefficient, and grew even weaker under pressure. But he continued. She was also a hard worker, someone who diligently practiced every single day like a fool. He asked if such effort could really be called a failure. He concluded that though she had lost, he liked hardworking people like her. She was his disciple, and he found it displeasing when Ruka insulted her. Yar began to cry at his words. Ruka scoffed, saying he was arrogant for someone with only 100 magic power, but he shot back that even with that much, he could defeat her. Ruka smirked and told him he was good at spouting nonsense, better at that than anything else, and declared that she was not the one meant to be his opponent. At that moment, Ryuji appeared, excited that it was finally his turn. Ruka urged him to hurry up and finish things, and he replied that she didn't need to say it twice. Kusanagi gently carried Yoa to the spectator seats and told her to watch closely. She glanced down at her wounds. Surprised they didn't hurt anymore, and they seemed to be healing. Meanwhile, the protagonist thought about his next opponent. Though he had boasted that he could defeat someone with only 100 magic power, he knew there was no way he could win without going all out. Still, he decided to hold himself at 100, using only one attribute and fighting with no incantations. If he took a direct hit, he might die without a barrier. But he found the risk thrilling. His opponent apologized, saying he would not hold back. The protagonist answered that he would be the one to hold back. The crowd of students cheered him on, warning him not to push himself too far. Measuring his opponent's power, he discovered Raju's strength was 8,000 magic power. Normally this wouldn't concern him, but right now, at only 100, even a lapse in focus could mean death. The second match began. Ryuji told him not to hold a grudge. The protagonist thought that with this one attack he could uncover the truth about whether he had really defeated those delinquents. While Ryuji unleashed his full power, the protagonist struck his head and calmly remarked that he was too slow. Everyone was stunned. The match had ended instantly. Ryuji lay unconscious on the ground, The referee announced that the winner of the second match was contestant Kusanagi.
Mage.
Ruka was shocked. He had defeated Ryuji in a single strike without even chanting. She wondered what trick he had used. He told her that he had only ended it quickly, just as she wished. Yua, watching from the sidelines, thought he was amazing. Ruka admitted that he seemed skilled, but he retorted that he was stronger than her. She dismissed his words as more nonsense, but privately noted that her own magic power was 10,000 greater than Ryuji's. Still, he knew she was stronger than Ryuji. The commentator announced that an unexpected event had occurred in the second match and that Kusanagi's unusual fighting style had captured everyone's attention. The third and final match would now determine the victor. When it began, he aimed a magic bullet at Ruka's head, knowing it was the most efficient way to win. With his low magic power, he had to use equally low-level magic craft, but Ruka realized his technique. Instead of dodging, she raised her defenses. She counterattacked, only to be shocked when he remained completely unharmed. It didn't even look like he had used magic. Confused, she wondered what was happening. The students also whispered in disbelief, asking if he had really been hit just now. He wasn't even wet. Yua, too, was astonished. She was certain he had used some hidden technique. Ruka unleashed another round of attacks, but he dodged them all with ease. She realized he was evading everything without using magic at all. Meanwhile, Yua observed carefully and discovered that he was counteracting magic craft with other magic craft even against stronger spells, despite the vast difference in power.